Hey there, welcome back. You're listening to Traxx FM. It is Momentum. It is 11:15 on the clock, and that means we will be talking to some very interesting people in the studio. And today we are talking to Dr. T. Swee Peng, who is the Metro IVF fertility specialist. Now, he graduated from the University of Malaya with a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery in 1982, then performed his specialization training in ONG at Seremban General Hospital. And then he was with University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and finally at John Radcliffe Hospital, which is as well as the University of Oxford, and was admitted as a member of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists in 1989. Dr. T is currently the fertility consultant at Metro IVF, as well as a clinical assistant professor at Faculty of Health, Science and Medicine at the University of Tunku Abdul Rahman. Welcome to the studio, Doctor. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to share with you.
Alright, so today we are talking about something that is quite new, something that not many people know about, and something that is very indispensable for the future of IVF. And today, of course, we are talking about PGD as well as a PGS. Now, for the listeners out there, that means pre-implantation genetic screening as well as a diagnosis using it with NGS. Of course, there's a lot of acronyms over there. We are going to let Doctor to let our listeners know. So let's start off with this question. Of course, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis is extremely new, as we were talking off air earlier. What is it? Can you tell us more about that?
IVF first started in the year 1978, and in IVF process, the embryo is kept outside of the womb for about 1 to 5 days, and this is a window period where we can actually diagnose or identify the genetic component of the embryo. The good thing about this embryo during this first 5 days is the cells are pluripotent. Pluripotent means that the cells haven't gone to any definite shape or size. It can develop to any part or any organ of the body. So if we were to take 1 or 2 cells from it, and then we can actually analyze the genetic component inside these 1 or 2 cells. And it will not harm the remaining cells. The remaining cell can still develop to a normal, healthy embryo.
Okay, so that is the process of mitosis, I think. Is that what it's called?
You will go to mitosis after that. So this sample of cells we obtain, we can actually identify the genetic component as well as chromosome.
Okay.
So if the parents are carrier of any disease, then we can actually identify whether this embryo carry the disease or not. So before transferring to the uterus, before implantation, we can get the genetic diagnosis of the embryo. That's why it's called pre-implantational genetic diagnosis.
So, as the doctor said, you said that it has been around since 1978. IVF has been around
IVF
from there.
was there, yeah.
But PGD is something fairly new. How long has it been researched into, and how early?
Well, the first case of using PGD to have a healthy baby was in 1993. Where they able to identify the sex of the embryo and transfer the embryo with a particular sex that do not link to the sex-linked disease.
Oh, okay. So if you wanted a baby boy, a very healthy baby boy with no genetic disorders, then you already could do it in 1993.
Yes. Yeah. Example, hemophilia occur in only in the male. So if you have a male embryo, then you have a 50% chance of having hemophilia. Whereas all the girls will not have the disease hemophilia.
But they'll be carriers of that.
Carrier, that's right, carrier.
Right. So, of course, we were talking about PGD as well as PGS. You had the diagnosis as well as the screening. And off air, you were saying they are different, but at the same time quite similar. Now, of course, can you tell us more about that?
Okay.
What's the difference between screening and diagnosis?
Okay. For PGD, which is diagnosis, the couple are carrier of a particular disease. Let's say they have hemophilia. They both of them are carrier of hemophilia. So we do a PGD. The embryo that is obtained during IVF, we biopsy it, and then we check that whether the embryo is having the disease thalassemia major. Okay. Now, if they are both carrier, then there is a 25 chance of the baby having thalassemia major. And for 50% being carrier, and the other 25% perfectly normal. So we can transfer the 25% that is normal embryo to the mother.
Okay, so you would be able to identify which are the carrier, which embryos exhibit carrier symptoms,
Yes.
which exhibit the thalassemia major symptoms and all that. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to isolate those and also only at the same time move the healthy ones into the mom.
Yes, this is called PGD.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, people who want to do PGD are carrier of a particular disease.
Means they already know that they have it
They are carrier.
within their genetic line.
That's right.
Okay.
Mm.
So how about screening?
Screening is using the same technology, but the couple, example, we have a chromosome abnormal number. They found that 50% of embryo before transfer in the womb has abnormal chromosomal number, and this chromosome will lead them to have failed IVF or miscarriage.
Okay.
So by screening the chromosomal number, we can actually avoid transferring embryo with abnormal number.
Okay.
Now their chromosome number 1 to 23. And if they have extra chromosome in any one of the number called trisomy, that means you have instead of 2 sets, you now have 3 sets, then this will very likely result in miscarriage or failed IVF. So we screen them so that they have a higher chance of getting a pregnancy.
Oh, okay. So that literally screening is just to make sure that they can get pregnant. That's a very most important thing that you're looking
higher
at.
chance of getting pregnancy and less likely of developing early miscarriage in the month 1 or 2.
Okay, so that is the difference between PGD and PGS, and then but you also said they're quite similar in certain ways. What is similar among them?
Similar is the whole process of doing it is the same.
Oh, okay, the techniques.
And when you go for laboratory testing, one is testing for the genetic component, which is the diagnosis. The other one is to check for the number of chromosomes.
Like for instance, if you have an extra chromosome on number 23, then you get that is a precursor to Down syndrome, if I'm not mistaken.
21.
21, number 21. Yes, you're the doctor. All right. So of course, and in IVF, I understand that good embryos, as you said, means a better success rate. And how does the scientist or embryologist in the IVF laboratories actually select the good embryo for transfers?
The embryologist all the time is trying to look for good embryo for transfer. As you said, means better success rate in this IVF. So they'll score the embryos. They'll then grade the embryos. And they score it by morphological appearance. That means what the eye can see under the microscope.
All right.
They look at 4 criteria. One is the cell number. On the second day, they expect the number of cells to be 2 to 4. So if they fit that number, this embryo has a good score for that size of the cells number. Then they look at fragmentation. Fragmentation, it means at the margin of the cells, the cytosome chip off.
Okay.
It's just like edge of a broken biscuit.
Edge of a broken biscuit. Okay.
So if you have more fragmentation, up to 25%, it still can result in good pregnancy. Above which, they are bad score, unlikely to reach pregnancy.
Okay.
Then the third one they look at is the evenness of the size. If the size are both, all the cells are even size, then they are good embryo. And lastly, they look at the number of nucleus in the cell.
Okay.
Obviously, one cell should have only one nucleus.
Yeah, if that's
so
small, that's weird.
so with that, they give a score, and after that, they get a grade. And if the grade is 1, grade 2, or grade 3, then there's a good chance that pregnancy will occur. So the grade 4 and 5, usually they are discarded.
Is it very often that once they go through PGD and PGS, would they be able to constantly see a grade 1 or a grade 2 or a grade 3, or in certain pregnancies do you only see below grade 4s and all that? Is it very reoccurring grade 1s and 2s?
I believe what you mean is if we were to look at the what called grading and experience, it looks good. Is it possible underneath the chromosome could be abnormal?
Yes, is it possible?
Yeah, it is very possible. In fact, there are a lot of good embryos that look normal, but genetically inside they are abnormal. That's why PGS comes in.
All right, so that is to make sure. So do you do PGD and PGS to a single, say someone is expecting, someone wants to have a baby, so they are already sending in their cells and all that. Do you do both to them, or do you do only one at a time?
Actually, we do one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you just want to have a baby and you have no history of any genetic disease in the family or carrier state, we do PGS screening.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a short break. We're going to go for a song. And once we come back, we'll be talking more about PGD and PGS with Dr. T. In the studio, he is with the Metro IVF Fertility Clinic.